it was a motivating factor, just trying to raise my profile and increase my popularity.
Yeah, but I think that there are a lot of people who do that. I mean, they do join these organizations, not necessarily for the stated purpose, but you know, to socialize and network and raise their popularity. So it's not all that unusual. Now, you started working at a major pharmaceutical company, and what year was that?
I started working in the summer of 2003.
Okay, and let's talk a little bit about what it was like when you first started there.
Sure. I had my degree in chemical engineering. So, you know, I think one of the things when I first started there that was a big shock for me was that I wasn't as fulfilled as I thought I would have been. I joined that company in a rotational program, so I had the opportunity to see a lot of different experiences, but each of the experiences, I mean, they were cool, they were technically challenging, some of them were mentally stimulating to a degree, but I just kept feeling like I had, like something was missing. You know, I just felt like, I went to school for 4 years, and this is kind of how it all pans out. So I wasn't really excited about, you know, being there. And so it was somewhat of a shock and somewhat of a disappointment, because I felt, to a degree, and I joke with one of my friends that we had been kind of duped into getting these degrees to go fulfill these jobs, that we didn't really have a full understanding of how that looked, kind of from a long-term perspective.
And you were there for a while, and at the same time, is this when you got involved with real estate flipping?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that. What is it when you flip properties, and back when you were doing it, I guess it was pretty profitable.
Sure. So similarly, it being in that situation, not being fulfilled with the job, you know, one of my friends actually from college, you know, one of those guys I met that first day there.
Right.
We had sought out opportunities to kind of fulfill those voids. So we knew like the job wasn't necessarily kind of hitting at that creative niche that we had. So let's go and try to start a company. And so we bought our first property in Philadelphia. It was I think a 5-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom out in the Germantown section of the area. And we hired a contractor, had him come in, do some renovations on that, and then sold it back to a new owner. So again, this is in 2005, 2006. So we're right at the kind of tail end of the market, and getting ready. The market's about to burst. So, but the first one we did was pretty good, but after that, things kind of went downhill.
Jeez, and I guess that led to some tight money situations, or
absolutely. I mean, we were making pretty decent salaries, but when you start carrying 2 and 3 mortgages on top of your own, you know, it can get pretty tight.
Yeah. In your book, you talk about, you say, I found myself in a perpetual state of spiritual inconsistent behavior. Now, as a Christian, that's got to be a little bit of an uncomfortable place to be. Explain a little bit more about that.
Sure. I don't think at any point in my life did I ever not acknowledge God. I always felt His presence. It's just a matter of how intense that presence was at different times. And so the thing is that in those moments where I'm, you know, out here fornicating, out here just drinking in the clubs and just acting in all types of ways like I don't know Him, you know, I'm in those spiritually inconsistent moments. And I continue to do it even though He was still in the background.
Right.
But so I found ways to kind of push past that, you know, try to ignore Him. But even at the end of the day, in the quiet of the night, I always knew He was there. And so that was just kind of the realization that I continue to do these things that I'm not supposed to do, and I don't know why, I just kind of keep doing it.
Right. You went to Brazil, and you mentioned that in the book as well, and Brazil is not known for just being a really passive country. It's got quite a reputation, lots of fornication and opportunities to do that, but a beautiful country in a way too. And you said things changed for you when you returned from that trip. Tell us a little bit about that trip and what changed when you came back.
Well, it was interesting. So when I went to Brazil, I was actually in the midst of kind of one of my first serious stints of celibacy. And so I was I think I was about 12 months at the time, or maybe 15 months. And so we had already planned the trip about a year in advance. And the back of my mind, I said, man, I really shouldn't go. I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold up my end of the bargain, knowing, like you said, the whole big thing about Brazil is the women there.
Right.
And none of my friends were celibate, so I knew what they would be doing while I was there, or at least what they would be looking to do, right? And so I went kind of under my own, I guess against my better judgment, and I fell victim as soon as I landed, you know. And so really was when I got back, actually on a plane ride back, I was very convicted, just like, I blew it. You know, I've been celibate for 15, 16 months. I go out here and I lose my mind, like, what am I thinking, what am I doing? And no sooner than I can wrestle with those thoughts, do we get for the real estate business, we got a return check in the mail, and so it was one of the tenants for one of our properties whose check had bounced, and so that kind of just began the beginning of just more issues on top of the issues that we already had kind of going into that trip. And so in that moment, I kind of found myself really upset at God, because I'm like, God, I was celibate for 16 months.
Right.
What gives?
Yeah,
you know,
this is the payback I get?
My business is supposed to, be booming. I should be a millionaire by now. Like, nobody's doing this. Why are you cursing me like this? So it was a very interesting point in my life, and I was very frustrated.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of folks who are Christians get to that point too. And it's a whole, you're being obedient, so you think things should be falling your way. You were being celibate for 15 months or whatever, and you think things should be falling your way, and they don't. And it becomes frustrating. And so what did you do? What do you do with that frustration?
Well, for me, I kind of kicked rocks for a while. I mean, I really let myself get into the dumps and just kind of really turn my back. Say, you know what, I'm done with this. This whole thing is a farce. I mean, and every time I would try to kind of walk away from it, I still kind of heard that quiet voice in the back of my head, like, you know better. And so I tried to go back. And I think over the next couple of months, and I think at this point, maybe 3 or 4 months later, there was a woman that I was dating at the time, and so there was an opportunity. I took it. I said, you know what, God, if last time my business is already gone now, so what's the point of not doing this anymore? Right. And so I tried, I had sex, and that was the last time I had sex, because after I was done, I realized that it didn't feel the same. I didn't have the enjoyment. I felt extremely convicted, and I was just like, what am I doing with my life at that point? So it wasn't a matter of what am I doing in this instant. It was, what am I doing in my life? I'm out here pursuing this real estate business. Is that even what I'm supposed to be doing? I'm not happy at my job. I'm trying to fornicate and pass off the pressures of the day, and that's not working. So I got to a point of submission.
Yeah. Your book is titled Rededication, A Story of Sex, Repentance, and Restoration. Tell us about this restoration. Was that part of it that you just described, the feeling convicted part and not feeling fulfilled?
I think the restoration part really kind of kicks in after that moment of full submission. And so then God really started to take me on the process. He started to purify my mind and really give me a new perspective on what this journey of life should look like. And so that's when I reconnected back to the church. I had joined the church in Philadelphia. I started to get active in that church, doing missions trips, started to get active in ministry. So I said, you know what? I've been very selfish with my life. I've tried to fulfill my own desires, my own needs. And so for this period of time, I'm at this point, my real estate business is falling down. I'm not happy on the job again. So with all these things going on, I don't have anything to lose. Right. So let me just submit and say, you know what, if you've been pressing me on this sexual sin thing, I give that to you. I'll yield to you. I will work for you. Let me just try it your way for once. And so through that next year and a half, it was really a restorative process, because I started to find fulfillment again. I started to be content in where I was. I wasn't as anxious about life anymore. And so that was really that restorative process. And ultimately, the big restoration of the whole journey is really when I married my wife.
Right. And that is one of the good experiences that came out. Tell me how you guys met and how important a role she plays in your life.
Absolutely. We actually met doing an internship when I was in college. And so we just were kind of cool friends, nothing more, probably one of the first and only platonic friends I ever had, because every other female friend that I had in college that was platonic, I crossed the line. And so we were friends for so many years. She was always there, very supportive, and actually she was one of the key kind of people that I could reach out to for spiritual guidance. So in any point in my journey, when I'm frustrated with God or, just struggling with different things, she would be one of the people I would call and say, hey, what do you think about this? I just don't feel this is right. And she would sometimes, punch me in the chin. You need to tighten up. Why are you mad at God? You should be looking at yourself. And just really kind of that voice of reason in my life. She was there when I talked about all the dating situations and all that stuff. And so over time, we just continued to be friends. And as I got through this restorative process, I got to the point where, I'm looking for a helpmate and just praying to God for him to reveal that person to me. And it became very obvious that she was the one that he had for me, and she had been there this whole time. Right.
And then your wife's name is?
Naneka.
Right. And she was with you, and she knew about your background, how did she deal with that?
Well, how did she do it from the standpoint of when we got together?
Yeah.
I think it actually helped, because she saw the progression. So she saw where I came from, she saw what I went through, and she saw where I ended up. And so she could appreciate me even more, because we didn't have that situation of when you meet people and you start trying to